from Pan's Rocks in Ballycastle. The little footsteps leading up to the bridge have obviously been rebuilt since the last time I was here during the sort of January storms. So first time actually up on the walkway. It's a very popular shot with the walkway leading off into the distance. The one time that I perhaps would have wanted more clouds, there doesn't seem to be a lot directly above me. But the shot that I'm kind of going for here is again very simplistic, simply using the walkway as a lead-in line. Now I've got a couple of options here. I can either keep the walkway central in my frame, or because the sun is rising over to the right, potentially put the walkway a little bit more skewed on the left-hand side of the classic rule of thirds. I'll probably try both. There is still quite a heavy bank of clouds actually on the horizon, so whether or not we get sunrise light is debatable. It is now 10 to 5, so sunrise is in about 40 minutes. But we'll see how we go. So very classical shot here. There's obviously I love Ballycastle Beach because of the potential for swooshery, and I'll put a link in the YouTube video below, in the notes below, about what I mean by swooshery. So once I've kind of done the classic kind of, the typical shot, I'm going to go and explore the actual beach as well, especially as that light hopefully will still be relatively soft. So at the moment I probably won't be shooting with any kind of maybe I will put maybe a 4-stop on there. At the moment, obviously, because the sun hasn't risen yet, at f13 it's giving me 4 seconds. Probably will shoot at about f11. I'll probably put a 4-stop on there. I'd like about a 10-second exposure. But as always, the great thing about, or the thing to do with long exposures, is to try different exposures, and especially when you're around water. I think I've talked about this before. Sometimes it can be great to actually keep some of that dynamism in the water. So I'm going to carry on some really nice sort of pre-dawn light going on, and we'll see what we can catch. Right, let's get on with this. So kind of torn a little bit. I'm shooting on the 10 to 24mm lens, which is giving me a nice wide expanse, but of course it's also leaving me with a lot of kind of negative space, especially in the sky. There's a little bit of clouds, and I quite like on the left hand side of the frame and the right hand side of the frame how the clouds seem to be converging on where sun is going to rise. But I'm still not hugely happy with the composition. I've kind of moved around a little bit to put the walkway on the left hand side of the frame. There's obviously some little rocks on the right hand side of the frame that potentially lead us in. Of course, we're shooting into the sunrise, so they're not taking on a huge amount of that light. It'll be on the back side of the rocks where the light is. So but just some technical details. I'm actually shooting, say, the 10 to 24. I'm on the XE2. I have a 3-stop ND soft edge grad and a 4-stop ND grad, both format high-tech filters. Shooting on the 10 to 24, as I say. I'm shooting at 10mm at the moment, f11, and I'm actually shooting ISO 200, and I'm shooting in bulb mode, where I'm taking a series of exposures. So even though I've got the ND grad on, I'm still taking a series of exposures, because the dynamic range between that foreground and the sea and the background is even too much for a 3-stop grad. So don't be afraid to also bracket a couple of shots and sort of merge them with maybe luminosity masks in Photoshop afterwards, even when you're using a grad. I can hear the, I guess that's the Ballycastle to Rathlin ferry on its way out. I was in Rathlin a couple of weeks ago, lovely place. Anyway, so it is now 20 minutes to sunrise. Still concerned that we're not going to get spectacular sunrise because of that bank of clouds. But it's just starting to kind of come alive a little bit with some of that pre-dawn light, which of course is beautiful. Sometimes even more beautiful than sunrise light itself. So I'm going to carry on shooting here for a while. I probably won't get back to you until after sunrise, so I can just concentrate on the shooting. As I've always said, while I love doing these vlogs, it's always about the images first and foremost. So I'm going to focus on those, and I'll get back to you soon enough. Alright, see you in a bit. So sunrise is about 10 minutes away. Still not convinced that it's going to do much over here, but it's doing something nice over sort of to the left of me. And that's another valuable tip. We're always tempted to just stare straight down the barrel of sunrise because we think that's where the best colours are going to be, and quite often it is. But make sure you're looking around you as well. So I've been taking some bracketed exposures. I also had to do a little bit of house cleaning. A couple of shots that I was taking had a lot of bird poo on the bits of wood, so I decided to give that a little bit of a clean. So give that a clean, take a couple of bracketed exposures with the ND filter in the 4-stop, and just because the lower cloud, which has taken on a little bit of that colour, is now starting to kind of fill the sky and gently drift through, I've actually put the 10-stop on, and I'm going for a much longer exposure just before the sun rises, just to see what that gives us. I'm really loving the texture and the colour of the bridge. And as I say, I've now put the bridge on the right hand side of the frame, looking kind of the opposite direction of sunrise, towards Kinbane Head, towards Larry Bain, Carrickay-Reid Rope Bridge. There's only one. So shooting still with the ND 3-stop grad, and also now a 10-stop ND filter, and going for sort of several minutes on the exposure. So we'll see how that goes. And hopefully, well, two things. Hopefully I remember to bin the bit of sort of cruff that I've cleaned the bird poo off, and don't kind of put my hand in my pocket unwittingly. And secondly, I've forgotten what I was going to say on the second point. So there you go. So I've come along the walkway a little bit. Still shooting a long exposure. It's about sort of between 2 and 3 minutes. I'm actually taking 2 long exposures, again with the thought process of blending. The sun has now risen. As I had assumed, it is obscured by the cloud, but pretty sure it's going to pop up. It is actually making some pretty gorgeous views in the distance. I'm just going to snap a little iPhone pic, and I'll shove that into the video. But the fact that the sun is rising, I'm going to keep looking away from the sun at the moment. I think there's more interesting colours going on this way, or at least interesting colours combined with a more interesting composition, which again now I'm including the bridge again, but now much more of those rocks. Now of course, if the sun had managed to sneak above the clouds on the horizon, these rocks in the foreground would be taking on some of that morning glow. So I think there's a better image to be had down here with better conditions on the horizon. But I'm really liking the colours in the clouds. So I'm shooting f9, ISO 200, 10-stop ND, 3-stop ND soft edge grad, and that was a 2-minute exposure. Not too shabby. So I'll probably whack in here probably about a 3-minute exposure now, just to bring some of those shadows out. Now, recovery on the Fujis is actually in the raw file in the shadows is actually pretty damn good. But again, just to give myself enough latitude in post, I'm going to shoot that second shot at 3 minutes as well. So as you can tell, that sun has now broken through on the horizon. I fired off a couple of shots into the sun. I'm not a huge fan of shooting into the sun, I must admit. So I'm back now focusing on the light that the sun is actually casting on these sort of rocks. I've shot a couple of standard exposures. Again, shooting with that grad. And I've now put the 10-stop ND on. Going for about a 90-second exposure at the moment. Really beautiful light across to where Kinbane Head is. Gorgeous clouds. I'll probably take the camera and maybe point it back over that way as well. So let's see how that worked out. That was actually 80 seconds I went for in the end. quite nice actually. Quite calming. The light on those rocks is just, it's the light on these rocks that's really sort of getting me enthused with this particular composition. Again, using the bridge as that lead-in line. I might just swivel around just a touch, because I say the light on the rocks, so just bringing myself round just a smidge. I shall remove the filter system, just check my composition again, lock in a focus point. I'm shooting at f11. Once I've locked in the focus point, I switch to manual focus. Back on with the filter system, and off we go. Can't believe I've just had to wipe bird poo. Oh,